First of all, let me just say thank you to the Texas Hall of Fame group for giving me this opportunity just to sit up here and to break bread with these wonderful athletes, past and present, that I've watched all of them on television doing something very special. And I just want to say thank you for coming out and supporting us. In terms of the Olympics, when I made that jump, it was very interesting because no one expected anything over 28 feet. So I was really blessed to come down the runway. And when I hit the board, it was something very special. I went up over 6 feet in the air. And while I was up there, I looked at my watch. And landing, it became a historical jump. And then, of course, it being still the oldest Olympic record in the history of the Olympics. So we'll be sharing about 54 years this year. So I am just ecstatic to be here for 54 years after the jump. It's just a blessing. And so I just take my hat off to all my brothers and my sisters up here, and I know that they will be just as much fun and enjoying this evening as I do. So thank you, and God bless you.
So Bob, that record spawned the creation of the word Beamonesque, an athletic feat so superior to anything that has come before it. But what does it mean to you to be Beamonesque?
Well, I think, like I say, I had no thoughts about ever jumping more than 27 feet. And then when you jump 2 feet beyond, and it becomes a dream, and then they label it as a new word as Beamonesque, meaning going past and superior to unbelievable distance or whatever. So Chris Bosh is Beamonesque.
Well, that is perfect because that leads us to our next inductee, Chris Bosh. So Chris, you have won at every level in your career. A perfect 40-0 record and the #1 high school basketball team in the nation, all-rookie team, 11-time All-Star, 2-time NBA champion, Olympic gold medalist, and inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame. Pretty awesome. So what stands out in your mind when you look back?
Well, I would say really what stands out the most is just the journey that you take with everybody. Coming in the league as a young man and really being a young man aspiring to play basketball, you just want to make it. You just want to be great. You just want to do well in practice or the game. So for me, that was always the next step. And just going step after step, I was able to kind of look back and be proud of what I accomplished and accomplish a lot, but I was always trying to accomplish more, as crazy as that sounds. And, excellence was just the thing that drove me every day. So I never really thought about accolades or accomplishments. I loved what I was doing with the people I love. So whether that was my friends, my family, my children, being able to have such a great group around me, especially now, to be able to do these things, enjoy these great events like this, take honor in it all, and just sit back and enjoy the ride a little bit and look back and be proud of that. I was just trying to do as best as I could at each moment.
early retirement from basketball, now into writing, acting, starting a record label.
Well, I'm gonna give credit to my kids and my wife. They what's interesting, after everything is done, there are dishes to do, there's trash to take out. I mean, we were joking about it for a while. I was the carpool parent, and even so much to the fact where people knew my name, but they were like, "Oh yeah, I saw you in the carpool line." That was always the thing they come back to. But it was, life goes on. I understood that, and I have 5 beautiful children and a lovely wife, and they were able to help keep me grounded and keep my routine going and kind of the same. And you look around in one day and people are asking you for advice and asking you, "Dad, what should I do?" Or you're the leader of a certain situation that you have to pretty much gird yourself up and make it happen.
On that note, tell me about what you call the inner game of success and how people can tame their inner voice and make it their ally.
I had this conversation with a friend of mine a while ago. It was right after I was retired, and I was really feeling down, and this particular person had cancer as a child. And it really made me kind of sit back and think, because I had my whole pity party that I was going to invite her to. But it didn't happen like that. Hearing this information from a certain human being was like, okay, I didn't have cancer as a kid. And that person told me, like, it's truly on us to choose to be happy or sad. Things are going to happen. Bumps in the road are going to come, but how you react is what's going to make the most out of you. So I always took that piece of advice and, tried to make sure I instituted it in my everyday life. And on top of that, my kids and my wife make me humble. They keep me humble, I'm telling you. It's something else. I can go be in the Hall of Fame one day, but, my kids, they'll be like, "Oh, yeah, that's great. So can I get more time on my video game or not?" But it's such a blessing to be here.
Awesome. Thank you for that. All right. Now we move on to Robert Griffin III. Hometown hero Robert Griffin III, known around here as RG3. You left a lasting legacy at Baylor University as the only Heisman Trophy winner in the school's history. You came here to run track and play football. What led you to Waco and Baylor?
I would say my mom and dad, raised me in the church. So, being a Christian and coming to a Baptist university kind of felt like the natural thing to do. It's also an hour away from where I grew up, so there was a comfortability there where I didn't have to go too far away from home. But to be quite honest, I'd be mistaken if I didn't mention that, Coach Art Browse was a big part of me coming to Baylor University. He kind of told me that we could go somewhere and do something that has never been done before, and we were able to accomplish that. Mm-hmm. And he also said we'd get a stadium built on campus. We were able to accomplish that. So
he actually told you that?
He did. It was part of his recruiting pitch. He said, "Hey, in 3 years you'll be up for the Heisman. Won the Heisman in 4." And then he said, "Before it's all said and done, we'll get the campus on stadium, the stadium on campus," and that all worked out. But it just seemed like divine intervention. God had a plan. Guy Morris, for the people who don't know Waco or Baylor history, he was the head coach before Coach Browse was, and he offered me a walk-on scholarship. Not because I wasn't a good player, but it's because he had a loyalty to a guy that we all are all familiar with, Nick Florence, who had already committed at the time. So to me, it was divine intervention that everything happened the way that it did, and that led me to Baylor University. It was one of the best things that's ever happened in my life.
So after winning Freshman of the Year honors, you missed the majority of the next season with a torn ACL. Then not only did you come back, but you came back even stronger, leading the Bears to their best record in 21 years and first bowl victory since 1992. while capturing the Manning Award, the Davy O'Brien Award, the AP College Football Player of the Year, and the Heisman Trophy. Now that's quite a comeback. Tell me about the drive, the work, and the mental strength it took to come back from such a tough injury.
I think one word describes it, right? It was Beamon-esque. Right? Staying on that, like, this is incredible for me, just so you guys know. I'm fanboying out right now. I got Chris Bosh here who, you know, when he's with the Raptors, he had the long hair. It was another reason I wanted to have long hair and wear my hair like that. So I told him that. Don't want to make him feel old, but that was me. And then Mr. Beamon over here with the long jump. My dad's right there with the gray suit in the back. He used to show me videos of Mr. Beamon doing the long jump when I was a young adolescent, going out there trying to be Beamon-esque. Tony Parker, come on, guys. Like, really, Tony Parker, come on. And, I was talking to Mike, and he said that his son actually ran the 300 hurdles before I ran 300 hurdles the year before I won the state championship. His son won the state championship, running 36.1. I ended up running 35, what was it, Dad, 35.3? Something like that. So, it's cool to be up here with everybody. But when you talk about the mental drive that it took to come back from the injury, I don't put that on myself. Mike Martin was the head trainer at Baylor that really helped me a lot through that process. And then just God. When I got hurt in 2009, tore my ACL, I didn't love football. I came to Baylor to run track, play football, and some people don't know, but play basketball. Coach Drew, we got a really great relationship. And I tore my ACL in 2009, and after that, I didn't play any other sports. So I didn't run track again. I stopped my thought process of trying to go play basketball for the basketball team. And it's because I fell in love with the game once it was taken away from me. So for about 2 weeks there, I tell this story all the time, 2 weeks after I tore my ACL in 2009, I was in shambles. I felt like I was doing everything right, going to the cold tub, stretching, doing the extra work, and I still tore my ACL. So I had a really difficult time with my faith and saying, God, why would you do this to me if I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing? And after those 2 weeks, I made the decision for myself that God had a plan, and I was going to follow that plan. And that's what led to that comeback and being able to do all those great things with the people there to help me. So I don't really have a one word to describe what it took to do that, but faith does sound pretty good.
Yeah, you did a good job. You explained it. All right, let's move on to Tony Parker. So Tony, growing up in a basketball family, your dad played, your brothers played. Was it your dream to play in the NBA?
Yeah.
What was that journey
Obviously.
like? Yeah, what was that journey like to getting you to San Antonio?
Well, I never thought in my wildest dream that I'll be living 20 years in Texas and loving it and being in the Hall of Fame today. It sounds like amazing. It sounds crazy, to be honest, because I grew up in France. I grew up in Normandy, a little city with 20,000 people. And back in the day, European basketball was not very famous. In the States, it was very hard to go in the NBA. And growing up, I always told everybody that I wanted to play in the NBA. My dad is American from Chicago, so we were big Bulls fans. I was a Michael Jordan fan, and so everybody thought I was crazy in France when I said I wanted to play in the NBA. They said I was too small, too skinny, I will never make it, until the Spurs drafted me when I was 19. So I had no idea about Texas, didn't know where it was, especially San Antonio. I had no idea where was San Antonio. The only thing I knew was David Robinson, because my little brother is lefty, and his favorite player was David. And so that's how it happened. Then I was in the NBA.
It's pretty cool. So it's hard enough to win one NBA title, and y'all won 4. So what's the secret to establishing?
I'm still mad, by the way. Sorry to cut you. I'm still mad at Coach Pop that he substitute Timmy and then put me on Chris, and I can't take the rebound. I'm 5 foot. He's 7 foot.
That's not fair.
It's not
fair.
That
is not fair.
And I can't get the rebound, and then we lose that championship. But it's okay. I'll take 4. It's fine.
I'm from San Antonio, so I remember that. So tell me about establishing the winning culture there with the Spurs, and especially with so many different players from different countries. How do you work those team dynamics?
Well, it starts, obviously with Coach Pop, the mentality over there. Congrats on him beating the record, last night. He brought, that culture and that work ethic every day. It was not easy because, he's from Serbia, he's very crazy and screaming and cursing every day, but me coming from France, I was used to it because in Europe, they always scream, those coaches, they're a little bit crazy, but me and Manu, we were used to it. And so Coach Pop was able to implement that. And then Timmy, obviously, was an unbelievable superstar, unselfish, and was willing to share. And
Tim Duncan, he's talking about.
Yes,
when
Timmy.
he says
Sorry,
Timmy.
Tim Duncan, sorry. And so after that, once you have Coach Pop and us three, following his lead, it was easy for everybody to, follow that way. And all we wanted is to win. We were very unselfish. That was the key. It was really no egos in our team.
That's awesome. So we have had several international athletes inducted into the hall here, but you are the first Frenchman.
Really? I didn't know that. Oh.
So how does that feel?
Great.
Just found out.
Just found out.
There you go. Awesome. Well, thanks, Tony.
Thank you.
All right, Carly Patterson Caldwell. So, Carly, you are the first American gymnast to win all-around gold in a non-boycotted Olympic game. Since your victory, 4 American women brought home that Olympic title, back to back to back to back. Now, how do you think your win helped drive this American winning streak?
Hello, everybody. It's really cool looking back now and kind of being that first person to win and then seeing the kind of dynasty, it seems like what everybody has been calling it every Olympics, this dynasty that keeps growing and growing, has been so cool and kind of made my win even more special. And I think when you see somebody do something that you haven't really seen done before, I think that can spark, that passion, that dream and goal for yourself that, hey, if she can do it, I can do it. Like, that's something that's attainable, that's achievable. And, I know for myself, seeing other people achieve things, that kind of makes it feel more achievable for me when you see somebody else do it. And you're like, okay, I can work hard. I can, have that dream and goal, and hopefully one day I can achieve it. And, I think that's kind of what happened a little bit. And I am very honored and proud to kind of be the start of that.
So you've said that of the events, Beam is your favorite. Tell us about your signature dismount, the double Arabian. It had never been performed at an Olympic game before you.
Yeah, the Patterson Dismount is a beam dismount. It's pretty awesome. It's a round out back handspring double Arabian. You guys know what that is, right? No? Let me just do it for you guys. If I didn't have my heels on, I would, probably attempt it, but just kidding. So you tumble the length of the beam. It's a round out back handspring, which hopefully some of you at least know semi what that is. You tumble the length of the beam. You're on the edge of the beam. You jump up in the air, half turn, do 2 front flips, and then land. So it's a blind landing. It's the highest level of difficulty that you can do. And yeah, like you said, nobody in the world was doing it. And when you get something named after you, you have to do this skill that in a world championships or an Olympic games, some sort of World Cup, and you have to do it successfully in order for it to get named after you, go into the code of points and be called the Patterson Dismount. So at the Olympics, after achieving that and doing it successfully, it went into the code of points as the Patterson, and it's still to this day one of the most difficult skills you can do, which is kind of cool because it's stood the test of time.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, so talk to us about reaching the pinnacle of success at such a young age in such a youth-driven sport. You retired at the ripe old age of 18, and now you transitioned into singing and acting and family.
Yeah, I retired a little bit younger than some of these guys. Can't really do gymnastics into your 30s. Some people do, but my back would not have allowed that. So, you know what? Yeah, it was kind of a journey of finding myself after winning the Olympics and just going on these different adventures of trying, like you said, singing and just some different things, going to college, finishing high school. I was only 16 when I won. I still had 2 more years of high school to finish. And that was kind of a rough period because there was a lot of unknowns, and you're kind of, my identity for so long was in gymnastics. That's what I did every single day, 24/7. I trained 40 hours a week, and so that's kind of all I knew. And then when I retired and you weren't in the gym all the time every day anymore, it was kind of like, well, what now? What's my purpose? What's my next passion in life going to be? How do I find that? And I definitely went through a rough time of just trying to figure out what was next for me, and kind of feeling like lost, nothing that I did mattered unless it kind of lived up to that Olympic gold medal. And like everything I did, I kind of held that as a standard for myself, which is
impossible.
It's impossible, exactly. It's not realistic. And so it took a lot of time to figure that out. But I think, kind of like Robert said, my faith was something that really helped me through those times, and just trusting that God had a plan and a purpose for my life. And, he led me to all of those achievements and failures and things that I went for and took a chance on, but at the same time maybe didn't work out, and that was okay, because whatever I did, I learned from it, I grew from it, I got better from it. And so, I kind of absolutely credit God for getting me through all those times and getting me, to the life that I have now, and the accomplishments and achievements. And now I'm a wife and a mom of 3 little ones, and so life is amazing, and we couldn't be more blessed, and thankful to God for all of those blessings.
Happy you're here. Yeah. All right, Mike Renfro. So, Mike, you were one of the few players to spend your entire football career in Texas. Arlington Heights High School, TCU, then the Oilers, and the Dallas Cowboys. So how special is Texas football to you?
Well, it's obviously special, and don't forget about Monty Junior High. And the only reason I bring that up, I'm so proud for a couple of reasons of that. And check your facts, Longhorn Nation, but my junior high coach invented the wishbone offense.
Okay.
I've clarified it with everybody, but check your facts. Spud Kaysen.
Okay.
So don't forget about my junior high coach.
Yeah,
but I'm
that's awesome.
very proud and honored to, grow up in Texas, be blessed. Growing up in Fort Worth, I obviously junior high school, went down the street where my uncle was the wide receiver coach at TCU, so that was sort of a natural. But then getting drafted by Bum Phillips and the Houston Oilers was, one in a, 16 chance or to stay in my state, stay in Texas.
During the Love You Blue time,
Yeah,
which was
great
a great
days.
time to be there.
And then traded later to back home to Dallas was another blessing. So very proud. And, my dad played and grew up and did the same thing, coached here, played here. He actually played with the Browns for a little while, but we had a couple of generations of that somewhat working.
Absolutely. So let's talk about that iconic 1979 AFC Championship game versus the Steelers, where the refs mistakenly called you out of bounds in the infamous no-catch call. Now, that call is a huge reason why the NFL now has instant replay. Over 40 years later, what are your thoughts on it now?
Well, they're not much different. I don't know. I don't know if we were going to beat the great Pittsburgh Steelers that day. They'd beat us the year before in the AFC Championship. They eventually beat us that day. We really needed those points. It was a third down play. And for the people that, and I know most of you probably don't, but, it was a catch. It was a very close catch, basically with one hand going into the snow embankment at Three Rivers, and the referee froze when it's time to make the signal, catch or no catch. And they went to huddle under the goalpost, and pints of whiskey bottles were coming out of Three Rivers. They were raising Cain, and again, it was about a 2 or 3 minute delay. Of course, on TV at home, everybody's seeing the replay, and it's pretty clear I'm in bounds. And Merlin Olsen, the color man at the time, was certain I was in bounds, and then they come up later, a couple minutes later, with a no catch signal, and it. it changed the future of the Houston Oilers, and it changed the dynamics of NFL and instant replay. And like you said, it's probably the play that got that installed a few years later. So, don't like that referee still today.
I don't blame you. So you've been inducted into the TCU Athletics Hall of Fame, Southwest Conference Hall of Fame, and now you are joining your late father, Ray Renfro, as the third father-son duo in the Texas Sports Hall of Fame. Tell us about your father-son relationship when it came to football.
Yeah, I don't want to give my speech away, but I'm going to talk about Dad tonight, of course. And, he was a sharecropper, picked cotton in East Texas, came to North Texas State. I think he had about 4 hitchhike rides from Denton to East Texas to get there. But he could really run. He was a Robert Griffin, runner. He could really, really run. He was a college champion in the 100 and 200. Paul Brown drafted him. He played 12 years. His bubblegum card says he's the fastest guy in the league at the time. So I guess that's truth. But he could run. He coached for 10 years. And, he coached Paul Warfield and Charlie Taylor and Lance Allworth and Bob Hayes, all Pro Football Hall of Famers over his career. And he was doing that in the daytime. And he's coming home at night.
Wow.
And he's coaching me and my 2 brothers, And so I felt like I was running routes sort of on a professional level, if you will, way back in high school.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he's a big part of my life, biggest mentor for sure, and I'm obviously very honored to join him in the hall. So, and before I go any further, and no offense to the Heisman Trophy Griffin, but one of my great friends is here tonight. I don't think I'm going to see him much longer tonight. But if you grew up in my generation, and maybe any generation in the state of Texas, the greatest football player that ever was raised and played in this state is my great friend, Mr. Earl Campbell, sitting right here.
Earl Campbell, everybody.
I love you, Earl. I didn't want to put you on the spot, but you got your dark glasses on anyway, brother.
Yeah.
You're looking good.
But he did.
Glad you're here. Anyway.
That's awesome. We appreciate you being here. Okay, so let's move on to Suzie Snider Eppers. So Suzie, you were a standout multi-sport athlete at Robinson High School. You led Robinson to their first basketball state championship, and you still hold the Central Texas shot put record. Tell us about growing up an athlete.
Oh, well, I've been so blessed. Things fell into place for me and it wasn't any doing of my own. People took an interest. Well, I started out living in Waco, which is a great community to live in because it's very sports-minded. And women's sports back in the 70s, the high schools, I was from the best program. I went to Baylor, that was not the best program. So I've seen the evolution of the game, but being in this area, had I stayed in Waco, I wouldn't be sitting here right now because they didn't have girls' sports. And it took a long time. I can remember at Baylor going to watch the first full court 5-on-5 game. And during the game, a girl sat down. She got tired. She sat down, and I was like, "Oh my God, what are you doing? What are you doing? This isn't good for the game. Stand up. You can, fake it some other way." But anyway, we moved to Robinson, and Robinson's a very sports-minded community. And I had a fabulous principal at that time in the elementary, because we moved out there when I was in the 4th grade, and it was Mr. Oliver. And he took interest in all the kids. He wanted us all to do well at whatever, but he came to us one time in the 6th grade. We were in a PE class, and he said, "Hey, would you guys like to go over and play Golson in a basketball game?" Well, you know what? We didn't even practice basketball, and I thought, well, what the heck? Yeah, that sounds like a winner to me. I'm game for any kind of activity. So I raised my hand, and we practiced about 3 times after school and went over and played Golson in a ball game. We really didn't know what we were doing, but we had never practiced a jump ball. We didn't even know what that was. But we went through and we played, and that, man, I'm going to tell you something. We won, and that was it for me. I don't know what I was going to do, but I was going to do some kind of sports. That was going to happen. I didn't understand how to navigate my way there. We didn't have club ball. We didn't have the AAU. We didn't have any of that. We had what we had in school. So I went on to junior high, and again, Mr. Oliver was my coach, and he took me aside and said, "I want to teach you how to shoot a jump shot." And that was it. That was the beginning of my whole career. And you know, he was one of the best fundamental skills coach that I know. And he taught me how to shoot a turnaround jump shot and a hook shot. And I was sold again. And from there, I was very fortunate to play under Bill Bradley at Robinson High School if you're here from around this area, you know that our rivalry with Midway was something to behold. And we'd fill a gym with 2,500 people. The fire department would close down the gym. You saw letter jackets from all over the Central Texas area. And it was something. People were sitting out of bounds to watch this game. And, you know, you just couldn't get anything but fired up. You had to get fired up. If you cared anything about playing or being a competitor, you loved that atmosphere. Graduated from Robinson, had a successful years there at Robinson. Graduated, went to Baylor, and I love being told that I can't do something because I'm stubborn enough to prove you that I can. If you wanted me to go out right now and shoot baskets with you, or I don't have knees anymore, but I will go and I will show you that I can do that. But I went to Baylor, and at Baylor they did not have athletics. Well, they did have athletics, but it was more of they did play other schools, but it was more.
Well,
it was not.
Let me throw this in there. So you were the first female to receive an athletic scholarship from Baylor.
Yes.
Back when the Lady Bears were known as the Bearettes.
Right. We were the Bearettes, yes. And it was, understanding the times back then was so different. I think that's why I'm up here. It's not because, I mean, I think it is because of accomplishments, but I do think it's because of the time that I went through, the time period. I saw the evolution of the girls' game. I lived the evolution of the girls' game. In high school, I played 3-on-3 half-court basketball. I went to Baylor. It was a full-court game, which I thoroughly loved, but I did have to learn another half of the game that I had never practiced. Going to Baylor, we had no one on scholarship. It wasn't very popular because Title IX was coming, and it wasn't really something that was really excited by a lot of athletic programs because it was going to take some money somewhere to fund these programs. And in doing that, it wasn't popular because it was going to take away, and I don't mean this against anybody because this part of it's the political part, and it's not as important. It's important, but not important. But it was taking away from men's programs. So the women were making a move. It was happening. Something was happening in the background. That's all I ever knew, something. I kept hearing about this Title IX. Something was happening. I was the only female person on scholarship until actually the start of my junior year, and they finally put another student on a partial scholarship, which I think ended up being more like financial aid. But things were starting to change, and I was more than proud. It wasn't always a popular decision. I got actually a scholarship that was meant for a male track person. I know Coach Hart probably wasn't real excited about that, but he was willing to let that happen. And, you know, it came together, and I did get to see us go from rags to riches in that program. And that means a lot to me. And I saw girls that came to that program. We were kind of like the field of dreams in the sense of if you build it, they will come. They didn't come because they were getting a scholarship. They came because they wanted to go to Baylor, and they came because they wanted to be part of something really exciting.
We appreciate you being a part of that. So let's move on to Stacy Sykora. So, Stacy, during your time at A&M, you were able to be a 3-sport athlete: volleyball, basketball, and you ran track and field. All-American, 2-time All-American, and winning the Big 12 championship heptathlon. So I know many athletes that play one sport, some athletes that even play 2 sports, but talk about being able to compete at a college level in 3 sports. How were you able to do that?
First of all, hi everybody. Wow, first of all, I just want to say, look who I'm up here with. Look at this table. I feel so like it's a fantasy world. I'm like, wow, look who I'm sitting next to. Y'all don't know me, but I know y'all. I mean, wow, look at this. Just to hear these stories, that like, just sitting here listening to their stories makes me like, it took me to like a story that was like theirs, right? A place where they were, but where I was, where they just took me. Ooh, I love that. I'd love to hear y'all's stories because, yeah, we don't know what they do. We do. No one knows what everyone does for 24 hours, you know? So it's here, you're here about y'all's kids and stuff. I love that. Okay, hi. Okay, yeah, I did 3 sports at Texas A&M, and just saying that makes me tired. Like, how? I don't know, y'all, to be honest. How? Gosh, I loved it. It was so fun, and I was given the opportunity to do this. Like, I got to do it. I never had to say no. I was like, basketball? Yep. Track? Okay. It was so wonderful, and to play volleyball at Texas A&M, it was so amazing. So anyways, volleyball, basketball, and track, I loved it. I'm sorry I don't want to talk about nothing, but I'm still excited. Wow, I never felt this feeling.
Okay.
Oh, okay, sorry, go ahead.
Now we're going to talk volleyball. So at A&M, you are an outside hitter. But in 1998, they were introducing a new position for international play, the libero. So you are the first to play the libero for Team USA and even won Best Libero at the 2000 Olympic Games. Tell us about that position and how it played in your Olympic career.
Yeah, it just came about. I was at Texas A&M and I was a hitter. So Lori Corbelli, my coach, she had been in the Olympics and I was like wanting to go to the Olympics. And there's this new position called the libero position, and she was telling me about it, but I was like, I want to spike hard with USA team. I wanted to hit the ball, right? That's all anyone really knows about volleyball is you spike it really hard. And so I was like, I want to go, and she was like, but there's this position that you can just pass and play defense, and I think that you would be an average outside hitter, but I think you could be a really good libero, pass and defense. So I was like, okay, and I just believed her, and I took it and ran. It was all new to us, a new position, and it makes me feel really old when I say I was the first libero position ever in volleyball. It sounds like ancient, right? Like the first. But it's so fun to say now, being an old has-been. It feels good to say that. I was the first libero in the sport of volleyball. Doesn't that make me feel like I have all gray hair? Like I'm just kidding, but yeah, that's what happened.
Okay, so real quick, you transitioned into running your academy in Las Vegas, the Sykora Academy. How are you passing on your passion and knowledge to today's youth?
Well, first of all, as y'all all know, it's hard to translate what you did into words as a coach. But I don't know if y'all, it's like you knew what to do when you felt this and to do this after that feeling, right? But to tell them, like, do you feel that? So when you feel that, do this. And then after that, go back to that feeling. And then you got that. Good luck, right? So it's like, it's hard to translate it. So the first time, that was how I used to coach. And then now I'm just like, hold it. There you go. You just have to do 2 words. But yeah, the academy is great to share stories. That's like basically what I do. They're gonna be good or not good or want to play or whatever, and that'll be a choice. But to like, tell them stories about what happened when you were there, and it's okay to make a mistake, y'all. That's the biggest thing. Let them know that, like, I always say LeBron James even misses free throws, okay? So I say that because one time I think I said, like, Michael Jordan, they remembered him, but I'm so old that if I have to say people like I love that are my age group. So anyways, that's a terrible story, sorry. Terrible, but yes, so I love the academy. I love teaching kids, and I love being able to share my experiences with them, like tell the stories about what happened to me, just like my college coach did to me. She told me her Olympic stories, and I was like, what? And then the next thing I know, I'm walking in her shoes, and I love that. Okay.
You have your own.
Yes.
That's awesome. Well, guys, we're going to open it up real quick to, and by the way, I don't know if y'all are going to have many questions because these guys all did amazing. They're amazing storytellers, amazing lives, and we sure appreciate all of y'all. So real quick, is there anything from the floor that anybody didn't get an answer to? Go ahead.
So this one's for Tony and Chris. You guys met in the finals 2 times, each won once. If you all had a third time to play. Who wins, Spurs or Heat?
I don't think we made it. We too old, I think, at that time.
So look, yeah, he feels they're too old, and we didn't have Bron anymore. So, you know, it would have been a little different. But I will say, you know, anytime that comes up, which it comes up all the time, you know, they got their get back. You know, that was the best part. We did feel, we don't feel any kind of way. You play the game, and you just, if you win, you win. But that was the best team I had ever played against that next year, like by far. I still believe, I haven't watched the film because it hurts too much. They were putting 6 guys on the court at a time. I mean, that's how it felt in my mind.
All right. Anybody? Go ahead. And back behind you there.
Chris, Bosh, when you guys all made the decision to go to Miami, can you kind of talk us through that decision process, how you three came to choose Miami?
Man, it's crazy to even think that was 10 years ago. At the time, I can speak for myself. Coming into it, nobody had ever really thought at the time, and you know, the way it is now, shorter contracts, not as many people demanding trades and stuff, but we wanted to put ourselves in a position of flexibility to be able to make our own choice as opposed to signing long-term deals. And so when it came up, it was really, that put the onus on the teams to structure their salary cap to be able to be flexible as well. So, you know, when the opportunity came up, it was, you know, right, luck, preparation, and opportunity. So we were all free agents. Were we familiar with each other? Yeah, sure. You know, I've been knowing LeBron since I was 16, 17 years old. Had been knowing Dwayne since we were 19 and 20. 19 and 20. And you know, we had the same agent, the late great Henry Thomas. So, you know, things happen all the time, but as it shaped up, I'm gonna have to give the Heat credit and Pat Riley credit because they had to make sure they were structured the correct way to be able to take all 3 of us. And I mean, it was on them to be able to handle that stuff because you saw how it was after. It wasn't a lot of fun right away. And we had to kind of pioneer and make things up as we were going along. But, you know, as it went, I'm happy with the way it turned out. And more importantly, we learned how to gel together and play together as a team and learn that it is a team sport. No matter how many superstars you have, no matter how many opportunities or how big your salary cap is, you still have to have the best team when you get out there on the court.
Definitely a good lesson there. Go ahead.
This one's for Robert. You're from the small town of Copper's Cove, also the son of an Army retiree. Do you credit your upbringing in Copper's Cove and being a son of an Army retiree to, you know, be where you're at now, and if so, how?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. Both my parents, Army retirees. Dad did 21, Mom did 13 years. So that whole process of like discipline, my dad brought that home with him, you know. Let me go ahead and I can take down that road because I'm not talking about it in my speech. So, you know, like I wasn't allowed, me and my sisters, I got 2 older sisters, so I'm the baby in the family. So yes, I played the Barbies, in case you guys are wondering. I wasn't allowed to watch like MTV, BET, any of that stuff. My dad, when I was, I think 6, he broke all of my Michael Jackson CDs, and it was devastating. It was the worst day of my life. But he brought that discipline to the family in a way that a lot of people thought was too much. But for me, it was exactly what I needed. I never knew I needed my Michael Jackson CDs broken, right? But he taught me how to approach life and, you know, finish what you say you're going to finish. Say yes, sir, no, ma'am. All of that stuff led to me being able to accomplish everything that I was able to accomplish. So I still remember when my dad went over to fight the war in Iraq, he got stop lossed. So in the military families, we know like when you hear stop loss, like that's not a good word to hear because a lot of times the people who get stop lost and go over, they don't come back. So I'm at a basketball camp in Texarkana, I think a 5-star basketball camp, something like that. So they got me out in the middle of nowhere, playing against other people, getting my Tony Parker on, you know. And we come back from basketball practice, and I'm in the cafeteria, and I look down the edge. I see the door open, and it's my dad coming back from Iraq. First time I saw him, and I just ran to him. And you know, moments like that I'll never forget, because the military meant so much to me and my family, but also how much you have to sacrifice. And I didn't know if I was ever going to see him again. So being able to see him in that moment and running to him and jumping in his arms, he'll never admit it. He probably shed a tear that day. But that's how much the military and that upbringing, and being a small kid, you know, a small town kid from a small town, you know, myself, Charles Tillman, Josh Boyce, I mean, I'm pretty sure that's about it. Maybe Logan Brock might be the only people who have ever really made it as a professional athletes from our town. So it means a lot, and it kind of gives those kids hope that they can do it too.
Absolutely. Last question.
For Suzie, you're one of the great high school throwers in the state of Texas. How did that early technique with the shot, how did that help you for your basketball career?
Well, I guess the fortunate part about my track career also was that it was on a I competed on a national level. So, you know, there's a lot of principles in sports that you learn: winning, losing, hard work, dedication, the time that's spent into it. Knowing that I was a year-round athlete, and I didn't get time off during the high school years, and that's fine with me because I enjoyed that, but one bled into the other. It taught me to be a competitor. Track's different, it's individual, and so in developing my individual game, helped my team sport game, just because my individual game got stronger. But both, without a doubt, the lessons I learned worked one for the other. So both were a great experience. I mean, I could have done track just as well as I had done basketball.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up with that. See y'all